Hello everybody, it's time for a debunk video, our first debunk video. We asked Twitter, what are the biggest misconceptions you've heard about software development? Because we were thinking about making a debunk video on this channel and we can use your help to build a list. And we got some excellent answers and we'll go through some of them today, of course, me and Adi. So let's start. What do you think?
Yes, let's start.
The first one is for you, especially with a dedication.
Yes.
Ferdinando Santacroce, pair programming is paying two people for doing one person job.
Of course. Well, it's obvious because we work in a factory and we build, I don't know, whatever you want, I don't know, screws or something. We build screws, so of course, if you put two people, then you'll have half the production. I think that's the reasoning around these ideas. People who think like that are still believing that programmers are working in a factory, and there's a very big issue with not understanding the big difference between industrial production and knowledge work. And I think that's a big issue that also comes partially because of what I saw happening in many of the workshops from how is it called, the Project Management Institute, PMI, because if you put project management for everything and you think that project management works in the same way in every domain, you are tempted to generalize and believe that it's the same way to be a project manager in a factory or a project manager doing some knowledge work. And I think that's extremely wrong, extremely confusing. It brings a lot of problems for knowledge work and for the efficiency of those project managers and the businesses that are work like that in that idea.
Yeah, and the way I explain this is, by the way, I got this just last week when a friend asked me to help them with Scrum in a startup. And we had a conversation where they realized that they don't necessarily need to do Scrum because maybe it's too slow for a startup. And anyway, even if they do Scrum, they can deliver more often, like every day or multiple times a day. And that you can do this, but only if you do pair programming and all these things. Because the way, and so it's very prevalent. It's coming again and again. I'm glad that Ferdinando brought this up. The way I explain this is the following. You are working with knowledge. So you have a problem that you're trying to solve, right? And if you bring more brain power to solve that problem, you'll probably solve it faster and with better results. It's just how it is. So that's basically what we are doing with pair programming or mob programming or things like that. Bring more brain power into the mix. And this completely ignoring the secondary effects of people learning from each other and, that in time, this actually leads to better programmers. So it also improves your team, not only the solution. If you ignore all that and you just stick to this, it's as simple as that. You have a problem. If you throw more brain power at it, you'll probably solve it faster. That's how it works. And I found it funny. I was thinking about the reverse of this because, if you're a manager that complains that your developers don't work hard enough, remember that your developers sometime will get an idea that solves problem at work while taking a shower at home. So why don't you pay them for the hour they spent in the shower every day? It's the same
I
kind of
mean,
thinking.
it could happen that some developers don't work enough. Obviously, there's this option. My question is, why don't you create an environment where they can work well enough, or you can help them to work more efficiently?
Yeah.
Because we need to focus on an outcome that means quality, and quality means having solving the business needs as fast as possible with some solutions that don't require much maintenance, that don't require you to go back on them after when you need to change just a tiny bit. So that's why you also need to think about the future, because when you're producing screws, it's a bit the same, right? If those screws aren't made well, then you'll create a lot of issues on the value chain wherever they are used. But here, if you introduce defects in the code, or if you have some sort of solutions that are very difficult to change or to understand, they will be a very fertile ground for future defects. So that's why, especially in some areas of a software product, you need to think a lot. You need to work a lot because you need to think about the future. Otherwise, you could pay that difference for a many number of times more just because you rushed it in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's why there is a big issue of this way of thinking that generates bad code, and then bad generates rush, and then the rush generates bad code, and you are in this cycle where you're never efficient.
Yeah. So I guess I can imagine business models so for example, if you gain money from maintenance, probably you don't care, and that's perfectly fine. Or perhaps there are some domains that are so fixed that you can actually predict and work separately. And one thing that fascinates me, one example that's not related to software, but maybe there is an equivalent for this in software, is I didn't know that, but sometimes Hollywood, for example, releases a new movie, and then somebody needs to write the book for that movie and publish the book as well. So apparently writing that book is a very standardized process, and you know exactly how long it takes. It takes, I don't know, about 3 weeks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I assume because you start from the script and you do some kind of transformations and maybe you do some adaptations and so on, and it's quite clear. And so I don't know what the equivalent in software might be, but perhaps there are some projects out there that can fit this kind of style. But if your business depends on delivering as fast as possible value, means something that your users can use and are happy with it and can tell other users who can come and bring some more money for your company and so on, then it makes sense to focus on delivering fast, high quality items. And in that case, optimizing for how busy your developers are is not that important. It's more important to optimize for how fast you can deliver something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go into more details on this because I think we can make a whole video on it.
Yeah, definitely.
And anyway, let me point out that we did a video on remote pair programming with Adi, where he talks about his book and what he learned during that book, so you can look at that one for reference.
But I need to say, before we go to the next one, pair programming shouldn't be used everywhere and always. So
Yeah.
you use it when it makes sense.
Of course.
Otherwise, those people might really have some truth in their saying.
Yeah. Okay. Ferdinando once again. Business people can't understand technical stuff. Developers can't understand business stuff.
Yeah, of course. In silos, in organizations where everything is very well delimited, they won't understand. But if you start having a team where they start working together for a business purpose, for value stream, then after a while they start learning and they start understanding it. So for some of the clients that I worked, I saw people who were coming from business and they knew database administration better than the DBAs. So it was really amazing. Or product owners who knew architecture better than the architect.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it took them some years to learn, but you do acquire that skill if you have the willingness to understand what you need as a business person, as a product owner, what you need to make things go right, to make things go further. And the same applies to developers or testers or anyone who is, let's say, put in this very narrow thing as a technical person. They don't understand business stuff. In fact, if you leave developers very to talk very freely with business people, they will start finding it interesting. And after a while, you start hearing interesting business questions. You just need to create the ecosystem for that.
Yeah, so I guess this was true at some point. At least business people can't understand technical stuff. It used to be true.
Well,
but
it still
now,
is, but
yeah, and in some areas it still is. But people have learned in the meantime, because technology has become such an important part of businesses, that whether you want it or not, you will have to deal with technology, right? And so you learn more and more about it. And I think today I would expect that you can talk to business people in the way that they understand technology. You can, and actually part of our courses on architecture, for example, is helping architects explain trade-offs, architectural trade-offs to business people in terms that they understand. There's a bit of translation there, but it's not so hard to actually go there, because once you start talking about money or risks or flows, they understand that part. They understand often better than programmers, because that's what business is about. About developers who can't understand business stuff, I mean, some of them are not interested. Although my advice for every developer out there is to figure out what business you are in, because that influences a lot what you will do and what your career in that organization can be, right? So what can I say? You can understand business stuff. Personally, I find it boring, when we talk about business stuff, but it's important, and I know I would rather sit down and have fun building something, But it's important to understand what business you are in, because otherwise what you are doing might not help, and then is not good for anybody.
Yeah, I think when you model some solution, if you don't know the business, you'll end up with the wrong model. That's why I think it's very important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when I go to a team or to an organization and I ask this question sometimes, well, what do you do? What does your team do? And well, most often I get very confused answers like, we write software for this system that has, and it's a very long and complicated explanation. And almost nobody thinks about what do they do? What are their clients? How do they earn money or some stuff like that? Why do you do this? Because our boss tells us to do. So if you hear that, probably this what this idea is right in that context, that business people can't understand technical stuff and developers can't understand business stuff. But I think it's a issue because they didn't talk enough.
I remember one story when from a client with one team who insisted that they have no clients and they have no users.
Exactly. Yes.
And they were very convinced that they have no clients and they have no users because they were building a kind of internal application. But we're like, somebody's paying you for that. So you have clients and somebody's using that, because otherwise, why are you building it? That was hilarious. But you see these kinds of misconceptions very, very often. And I think you're right. It's about silos. If you isolate people enough, they will forget what they are, or won't even care what they are doing or why they are doing things.
Exactly.
Yeah, so no, you can. And if you are in a context where you don't, so business people, if you have technical people who don't explain to you things in a way that you understand, get some that can explain to you things in a way that you can understand. And developers, if you are interested but can't get to answers to the business stuff, find a place where you can actually get answers about the business stuff. Writing software is a mere technical job. I love this one so much, and I keep saying programming is a fundamentally humanistic activity.
But why? You just write code. What's humanistic about this? You have the computer, you write some code, and you have somehow it works or it doesn't. So what do you need more?
I think the best answer to this was a short video that we have with Kevlin Henney, part of a longer conversation, where he argues very correctly that code is a system of communication. When you write code, you are communicating with yourself tomorrow. When you come back to that code and need to change it, you are communicating with people, your colleagues will need to read that code and perhaps change it in the future. And indirectly, you are communicating with users who are using this application. Right? So forget about, there's a technical part in programming, obviously. It needs to work. But let's not forget that it's actually a language. And it's a way of communication. And it's a language. It's more like, how would you say, it's one of fundamental language in a way, because you can build on top of it your own language. It's like jargons in various languages. So, if you are... Okay, one fun example. from British English. I learned that there's actually a jargon from a part of London. I don't actually remember which part of London, which is based on rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, instead of using a word, you use another word that rhymes with that word. And this makes the initial meaning so cryptic that only those people in that circle understand what it's about.
Yeah, so it's something like, I don't know, Haskell, right? That's the idea. It's the Haskell of English.
So in a way, that's what we are doing in programming. Whenever you write a name, you are creating jargon, your own jargon inside your bubble, inside your team, inside your larger team. Anything else to say about this? I think we.
No, I think it's enough. It's also the other thing that applies about needing to know the business and so on. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we could go on.
Ferdinando was on a roll, by the way.
Yes.
He came
Nice.
straight away with a bunch of, of answers, and it was quite funny to see them. You have to do agile, Scrum, kanban, whatever. And I think TDD was also mentioned someplace.
Yeah, of course. You have to do it, and nobody will tell you why. There you go. This is your new way of working, and stop complaining. I mean, it happens like that in many places.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, I think he could be right because that's what some people call transformation.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, sometimes as coaches, when we are involved in a transformation, we explain why these things are useful, but the reality is that the reasons will not always hit the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
They will not always get it. But anyway, my general view whenever we talk, even if we talk about the transformation in a larger organization, is look, these things are about experimentation, particularly Agile, Scrum, Kanban. They are about experimenting with a way of work and finding the way of work that best fits your context. This is what this is about, right? It's not about, you have these 20 rules and you need to follow them to the letter because the Scrum Bible says so. It's about, we have this context and we have these few things that, because we need to start from somewhere, let's start from these things. And then let's keep adjusting, keep changing until we get to a way of work that actually fits our team, our temperament, our way, our personalities, our context, our technology, and in general, working within the organization. But sometimes people don't understand this from the beginning, and what they understand is the message that we need to do this because the manager says so.
Yeah, explaining and going, I always try to, even for the small details, I try to come back to the why we do this. That's very important. As you said, sometimes okay, we miss the point, we don't explain well enough, but there are also organizations where nobody explains anything.
Yeah.
And people say, okay, we have to do whatever, Scrum, I don't know, Kanban. Also, there's another situation where you think that something might work and you try to explain that it works and you see after a while that it doesn't work. But That's the idea of trying to experiment, and organizations aren't used to that.
Mm.
They're used to saying, how should we work now? What can you tell us? Tell us, and tell us from the beginning. Tell us how much time it takes to go there, and how much money it will cost.
Yeah. I I find it very funny when we have the waterfall approach to an agile transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we're gonna do an agile transformation. So the first step is plan everything. Second step is to design. Third step is to have project managers. Well, they are
Mm-hmm.
not called project managers, but somehow appointed to do this change. Then we do the change. And of course, everything is estimated, and we know it will take exactly 18 months.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't it could make sense with, I don't know, uh, uh, if you have 20 people or something, or 10 people, maybe it makes sense to look at it like that. But typically here we're talking about hundreds and hundreds, tens of teams, and very different situations and challenges and so on. So I don't know who could look at it like that and understand all the complexities.
Mm,
So again, we go back to this idea that people want to have certainty from the very beginning, and there isn't such a thing when
yeah.
you look at a very complex system.
So going back to the point that you have to do these things, you don't have to do them.
No,
Uh,
sometimes they're even bad for you. So
Sometimes they're even bad for you. And yeah, we are helping teams switch to agile. And we know that sometimes this doesn't work.
mhm.
And we often don't work with those companies who want to do that if we know it won't work. Uh,
Or it doesn't bring any value.
yeah,
So we saw that, okay, we need to do that. That's our business. And yeah, okay, but why do you want to do that? But because there's an article in the Harvard Business Review, or there someone wrote about it in the Financial Times, and it's the new way of working. We want to go there as well. But then after you talk about what they are doing, you see that it won't bring any benefits. It will be just a change for the sake of change. So don't do it.
yeah. And but I have to add here, there are a few, still there are a few things that I think will help you a lot. You don't have to do them, but they will help you a lot. Having shorter feedback cycles and higher feedback quality is very helpful. No matter if you are a single developer working on a pet project or learning a new technology, or if you are a team working on a large project for many years.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pick one last one. And I think we have much more for another video, so
Yeah.
you
Let's
can
go.
add some more if you would love to. A high-skilled software developer is always better than a less skilled one. Other traits don't matter.
I'm even thinking about what high skilled means. I mean, I don't know. Knows
That was,
better Java, or knows, I don't know what high skilled means.
yeah. I mean, that's the big problem, right?
Is this person working alone? I- Maybe in this very narrow situation, I think this would make sense. If you have one developer, highly skilled, who works alone on a project and delivers it alone, I think it makes sense. But when you already have two people in the team, you start having problems.
Yeah, so when we are talking about the team, the thing here is we know that the speed of a team is actually limited by the slowest person in the team. And because of this, and just to make a point, the person who is the slowest in the team is not necessarily the slowest because they are less skilled. Sometimes the tools are not what they need. Let's talk, if we think, for example, about testing, maybe the tests are very slow, or it's something that you need to test that is actually slow to test by its nature, or no matter what else, right? And in this situation, so it's not the person's fault, it's usually something about the system. And then what can help is actually if you have people in the team that are able to go to that bottleneck and help fix it, help overcome it, make it faster. There's a whole book on this called The Goal by Elia Golgerat. If you just want to look at the short version, search for Theory of Constraints, and it will tell you how these things work and how you can actually improve a system. Another thing that I was thinking about, if you imagine, I don't know, what are some of the developers that are well known in the world? I don't know, Linus Torvalds, the one who did Quake games, If you look at them, they also have some peculiar quality that I don't think they would be able to work together.
Yeah, stubborn.
Yeah. John Carmack, right? It's one of them. Just pick, I don't know. I thought about some names, but think about the developers that did a lot of things and are well known, let's say, stars, right? I remember John Carmack because he is one of the few developers who actually owns a Ferrari, but but he's also very good at what he's doing with graphics cards and things like that. So, all right, you have these people. If you put them together and ask them to solve a problem, they probably would be very stubborn. They will fight and they won't get things done very quickly. So why is that? Because you need something more in a team. You need to be able to work together.
Yeah, so, okay, people call them soft skills. I don't know if it's really that correct to call them soft skills. I think they're humanistic skills, core skills maybe, that we need to have in order to understand each other. And the more we are in a team, the more we see the need of having these skills. The more we have pressure on delivery or on trying to figure out some solution for a very difficult situation, the more we see that these skills are very important. We want people to be open. We want to be able to communicate, to add up on another person's idea, not to say that only my idea is good because it's mine and yours isn't because it's yours. So there are all these things that make sense in this situation, which don't cancel at all the technical skills, but they add on top of them because you need the technical skills to be able to have these conversations.
Yeah. And if I'm going to your initial question, what does it mean skilled? Because skilled is highly contextual, right? You may be very good at algorithms and data structures and so on. If I ask you to do a simple web application, I doubt that you will use a balanced B tree with cryptographic hashes and whatever stuff, right? It's a crude web application. So these things are high skill depends on your context. What do you actually need? And right, the advice in many startups is to hire based on culture fit rather than on skill. This is something that people have come up with in years of practice. So what this means is, and how you can actually do it, if you have a team of developers, actually get them involved into hiring people for their team. Because sometimes you just don't click with that person. Irrespective of their skill, perhaps you would love to get out and have a beer with them and have fun with those people, right? But at work, you won't get along. That's perfectly fine.
There's an issue with this as well, because sometimes you're so it depends who is in the team and who's hiring, right?
Yeah.
Because if you put people who have extremely narrow openness about others, then there might be an issue that you have new people coming to your team that have the same opinion as the others or have the same experience as the others. So then you won't have this very important diversity of opinions,
Yeah.
which in fact generates very good solutions and very good ideas, especially when a crisis or a very difficult problem.
Absolutely.
So when hiring, you need to make sure that the people who make the filtering are people who are open to various opinions and can look at a person from various angles.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's important to have a variety of opinions, a diversity of opinions. That's because that will generate more solutions. So one thing I quite enjoy is working with people who find simpler solutions that I do. And I've had such experiences, right? I think one of the last was on Twitter. I was asking about some, complicated thing, and somebody pointed out, well, you could use a wiki or you could use something like that. Yeah, of course, obviously. I was thinking so complicated. And this is one example where it's really good to have this kind of diversity. Let's not forget, as developers, we like to develop. But sometimes the solution to a problem is not to develop something, but to use something or to use a solution that many other people have used before. It's as easy as that.
Or to change a system in a very small way so that now it solves your problem as well.
Yeah.
It can be controversial, but sometimes it helps.
Yeah, and there are many such simple solutions that help a lot. All right, so this is our first debunk video. Any conclusions, Adi?
It's fun. It's real. These aren't just made up stuff. These are things that we have heard, and I'm sure Ferdinando has heard them, if not once, maybe more times. So this is real life. It's what people really think about these ideas, and it's really nice to talk about them.
Okay, so thank you, Ferdinando, for posting these answers. We have some more coming to you. I think we got, let's see.
Something around 18 or...
Yeah, just a quick glance. Fix this wrong design problem with more infrastructure resources. A junior was shocked when his code was reviewed and he had to redo it. Dry is about duplicated code. You have to do TDD and so on. So it's quite a lot here. and I can't wait to go back. If you have any more ideas, tweet to us, Alex Bolly or Eddie Bulb, and we'll take this into account for the next debunk videos. If you like this, like, share, subscribe, tell other people. Maybe show this to your managers or to your colleagues, and if they have more questions, there's a way to contact us and to set meetings with us on our website, mosaicworks.com, where we can answer more specific questions for your particular context. The first consultation is free, so don't worry about that. We spend some time with our with companies to explain these things before we move into more commercial stuff. So let us know what you think, post other things. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember to think, design, and work smart.